Between October 2021 and March 2022, a group of 11th grade students from Lockridge High School, Pennsylvania, orchestrated a widespread financial scam targeting elderly individuals through social engineering. The perpetrators, 5 students aged 16 to 17, used mobile phones and VoIP applications to call senior citizens across multiple states, impersonating bank fraud department representatives. The central method involved introducing themselves using fabricated bank credentials, claiming there had been suspicious activity on the recipient's account. Victims were told that immediate verification of their CRV code, commonly misinterpreted from CVV, card verification value, was required to secure their accounts. In reality, once the code was provided, the students used it along with stolen or leaked card numbers to conduct unauthorized online purchases and direct transfers. Early reports of financial loss emerged in local news by January 2022, with isolated cases in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Ohio. Victims reported being reassured by the calm, professional tone of the callers, who often referenced real bank names and used spoofed phone numbers to mimic official institutions. By mid-March, over 100 confirmed reports of fraud had been collected by state fraud hotlines, with losses per victim ranging from $450 to over $9,000. Most victims were over the age of 65, many living alone. The scam structure showed signs of careful planning. The offenders maintained call logs, rotated voice actors, and kept digital spreadsheets of targets and responses. Despite the mounting complaints, the perpetrators remained unidentified. Investigators from the Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, noted the scam's low digital footprint due to the use of prepaid SIM cards and burner phones purchased in cash. VoIP services were registered with fake identities, and the IP addresses were masked using consumer-grade VPN services. A joint investigative team was formed under the codename Operation Gold Code. Analysis of voice recordings from victims and metadata from the few traceable transactions revealed consistent call scripts and time patterns. Calls were typically placed between 1600 hours and 2000 hours, coinciding with after-school hours, and IP activity clustered in the Lockridge area, raising the first suspicion that minors might be involved. Authorities began geofencing mobile activity near suspected VoIP endpoints and reviewed local school internet logs. A breakthrough would not occur until mid-April, when a transaction to a second-hand electronics vendor revealed a delivery address linked to one of the suspect's relatives. Following the transactional lead from April 2022, investigators traced a package containing electronics, specifically, a refurbished iPad and a gaming console, purchased using stolen funds. The delivery address belonged to an elderly woman in Allentown, Pennsylvania, who stated she had no knowledge of the order but identified the recipient name as her grandson, Kyle M., a student at Lockridge High School. Kyle M., age 17, lived with his grandmother and had no formal employment. A subpoena of his social media accounts and school-assigned laptop revealed communication threads between 4 other students, Jason L., Noah R., Taylor S., and Miguel D. These threads contained encrypted chat messages referencing CRVs, drops, and calls, along with spreadsheets labeled target_list_3 and easy_wins. The group used a combination of WhatsApp and Signal for coordination. Within shared folders were video tutorials about phone spoofing, voice modulation, and guides on elder fraud extracted from criminal forums. Further evidence included screenshots of bank transfers, online purchases, and call scripts copied from dark web sources. Investigators confirmed the operation had expanded beyond initial boundaries. New complaints surfaced from upstate New York and the Ohio River Valley. Demographics and call content matched the Lockridge Group's methods precisely. Some calls had evolved in sophistication, involving fake case ID numbers, redirecting victims to fraudulent supervisors, and using hold music mimicking bank helplines. By May 2022, over 180 individual victims were identified, with total damages exceeding $420,000. The U.S. Secret Service Financial Crimes Task Force joined the investigation as fraud losses crossed federal thresholds. Despite growing evidence, no arrests were made during this period. Legal complexities arose due to the suspect's minor status. Surveillance began in mid-May, including physical tailing and digital monitoring. Investigators noted that the group avoided using home Wi-Fi for critical communications, relying on public libraries, fast food restaurants, and mobile hotspots. A failed attempt to withdraw $2,300 from a converted Bitcoin wallet at a local ATM triggered alerts at the Pennsylvania Crime Intelligence Center. Surveillance footage linked the attempt to Noah R., who was seen using a hood and face mask, but identifiable via a shoe pattern matching images on his Instagram. Concurrently, a whistleblower, another student, reported overhearing conversations between Jason L. and Miguel D. about switching to cryptocurrency-only transactions and getting out before summer. He also mentioned that Kyle had boasted about never getting caught because they're kids. This intelligence prompted expedited warrants. Investigators feared the group would disperse at the end of the school year. A coordinated plan for surveillance, device seizure, and custody, codenamed Gridlock, was scheduled for late June 2022. On June 27, 2022, at approximately 6:30 hours, law enforcement teams executed synchronized search warrants at 5 residential addresses in Lehigh County, Pennsylvania. The operation, involving the Pennsylvania State Police, U.S. Secret Service, and local officers, resulted in the apprehension of all 5 suspects, Kyle M., Jason L., Noah R., Taylor S., and Miguel D. Each residence yielded critical evidence. Digital devices, including smartphones, laptops, and USB drives, were collected. Officers found printed phone scripts, partially shredded call lists, and receipts for prepaid SIM cards. At Jason L.'s home, a burner phone cache was discovered hidden inside a hollowed-out speaker. Taylor S. had maintained detailed ledgers of targets, including age, location, last call date, and card response status. One entry read, Mrs. C., 89, code 762, transferred $2,000. Noah R.'s room contained a paper envelope with $4,200 in cash and a hardware cryptocurrency wallet. His personal laptop displayed a history of Bitcoin transactions routed through anonymizing wallets. Investigators later traced some of these funds to accounts used on major consumer websites, supporting identity theft and goods resale operations. The arrests were coordinated to avoid communication between suspects. Each was taken to separate juvenile facilities for initial holding. Parents were notified upon execution of the warrants. The suspects, when questioned in the presence of guardians and legal counsel, provided limited responses. None confessed directly during the initial interrogation, citing lack of understanding or claiming it was just a prank. Forensic analysis of the seized devices began immediately. Within 72 hours, digital analysts reconstructed key portions of the scam's operation. Logs from cloud storage services revealed over 320 unique entries in their target lists, each corresponding to names and numbers pulled from online directories and data breaches. Victims spanned 9 states. By July 10, 2022, federal prosecutors filed charges under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, 18 U.S.C. Section 1030, wire fraud statutes, 18 U.S.C. Section 1343, and conspiracy counts. State charges included access device fraud and identity theft. Due to the suspects' ages, all were initially charged as juveniles, but the U.S. Attorney's Office submitted motions to transfer Kyle M., Jason L., and Noah R. to adult court, citing the operation's scale and sophistication. Community response was polarized. Some parents argued the students should receive leniency and rehabilitation. Others, particularly families of victims, demanded full prosecution. At a public meeting in Allentown on July 12, several elderly victims testified about the emotional damage, reporting panic attacks, trust issues, and financial insecurity caused by the deception. The students remained in custody pending adjudication hearings. Their online profiles, once public, were taken down or made private. News of the arrests circulated widely in local media, but major national outlets only briefly covered the case. Investigators turned to identifying all financial loss channels, victim restitution procedures, and the possible involvement of additional accomplices or third-party handlers. By August 2022, while detained in juvenile facilities, 3 of the primary suspects, Kyle M., Jason L., and Noah R. began exhibiting signs of coordination from within custody. Facility staff at Lehigh Juvenile Detention Center intercepted handwritten notes and coded messages passed between the wards during shared recreational hours. One note, decoded by staff, referenced a plan involving a family member bringing something during visitation. On August 14, 2022, during a monitored visit with an older cousin, Kyle M. attempted to obtain a prepaid debit card by concealing it within a book. Staff intervention revealed the card before it changed hands. The cousin was detained and later charged with contributing to unlawful juvenile activity. Kyle was placed in isolation, and all suspects had their communications further restricted. Despite increased surveillance, Jason L. attempted an escape from a group therapy session on August 21. He exploited a momentary lapse in staff supervision and exited through a service stairwell at approximately 14:18 hours. Facility lockdown procedures were immediately initiated. Jason was located within 37 minutes, hiding in a utility shed behind the maintenance wing. He was returned without incident, but the breach triggered a full review of security protocols. Meanwhile, prosecutors finalized digital forensic reports. Analysts identified more than 2,800 call attempts originating from the group's VoIP systems. Over 210 confirmed victims suffered direct financial loss, with total theft exceeding $610,000. Some funds were irrecoverable due to cryptocurrency conversion and laundering through peer-to-peer resale markets. Restitution efforts began through the Office for Victim Assistance, though many victims, particularly elderly individuals on fixed incomes, faced lasting hardship. Interviews revealed cases of housing insecurity due to overdraft penalties and credit damage. In September 2022, hearings on adult court transfers began. Expert witnesses testified that the students had operated with a sophisticated understanding of social engineering and digital concealment, undermining defense claims of juvenile impulsivity. The court ruled that Kyle M., Jason L., and Noah R. would be tried as adults. Taylor S. and Miguel D. remained under juvenile jurisdiction due to lesser involvement and cooperation with authorities. The proceedings advanced under increasing public scrutiny. Media coverage intensified after transcripts revealed Jason L. had referred to elderly victims as easy harvests in group chats. Families of victims pushed for maximum sentencing, while defense attorneys prepared to argue diminished capacity and peer coercion. The adult trial of Kyle M., Jason L., and Noah R. commenced on October 17, 2022. The courtroom was sealed to media cameras due to the defendant's age, though transcripts were made public. Prosecutors charged the 3 with multiple counts of wire fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 1343, aggravated identity theft, 18 U.S.C. Section 1028a, conspiracy, 18 U.S.C. Section 371, and unlawful access to financial devices, 18 U.S.C. Section 1029. Opening statements by Assistant U.S. Attorney Brenda Kovalchuk emphasized the scale and methodical structure of the operation. These were not isolated pranks. This was systemic fraud. These young men knew exactly what they were doing, and they did it over and over again, at the expense of the most vulnerable. Testimony from digital forensic experts confirmed that all 3 defendants had administrator-level access to the group's cloud storage, from which over 400 gigabytes of operational data were recovered. Screenshots, audio recordings, and call tracking logs were introduced into evidence. In one recording, Kyle M. could be heard adopting a scripted tone, "Ma'am, I need your CRV code to validate a pending withdrawal. If you do not comply, your account will be locked for 48 hours. Several elderly victims appeared in person. One, 84-year-old Francis Boland from Erie, testified, "He sounded like someone I could trust. I gave him my number because I was scared. I lost $3,200. I had to cancel my dental surgery." The defense attorneys argued diminished culpability. They pointed to the boys' ages, lack of adult supervision, and peer influence. Jason L.'s lawyer, in particular, argued that Jason had been manipulated by more assertive members of the group, despite digital evidence showing him drafting call scripts and setting quotas. Noah R.'s defense highlighted his high academic performance and absence of a prior record, citing his role as peripheral. However, prosecutors presented evidence of Noah purchasing cryptocurrency through a complex laundering process, beyond what was typical for a high school student. Psychological evaluations introduced by the defense revealed differing degrees of remorse. Kyle M. was described as evasive and emotionally detached, while Noah R. showed high cognitive empathy and regret. Jason L. was reported to have narcissistic traits and limited emotional insight. On December 5, 2022, the jury returned its verdict. Kyle M., guilty on all charges, deemed primary architect of the fraud scheme. Jason L., guilty on all charges, co-leader, with significant operational control. Noah R., guilty on conspiracy and wire fraud, not convicted on the identity theft charge. Sentencing was deferred pending restitution hearings and a federal victim impact review scheduled for early 2023. All three were remanded to federal juvenile detention facilities with the expectation of transfer to adult institutions upon reaching the age of 18. Simultaneously, juvenile court proceedings for Taylor S. and Miguel D. concluded with plea agreements. Both admitted involvement in exchange for reduced sentences and mandatory cooperation with the prosecution. Taylor was sentenced to 18 months in a juvenile rehabilitation facility. Miguel received 12 months with mandatory counseling. Federal and state authorities emphasized that the case served as a precedent for applying full criminal liability to technologically enabled juvenile fraud rings. The FBI issued a national bulletin warning of copycat behavior and urged banks to strengthen customer education protocols targeting older clients. Following the December convictions, a formal victim impact review was conducted under federal restitution protocols. Over 70 victims submitted written statements, and 24 appeared in court during hearings held from January 9 to January 13, 2023. The testimonies detailed substantial emotional trauma and financial disruption. Mrs. Leonora Falk, age 79, reported being unable to pay for winter heating oil after losing $1,850 to the scam. "I trusted that voice. He said he was from my bank. I live alone. I had no reason to doubt," she testified, visibly distressed. Another victim, Arthur Deering, 82, described the humiliation of realizing he had fallen for a teenager's deception. "It wasn't the money. It was how stupid it made me feel." Prosecutors submitted a final restitution total of $622,430.57, to be repaid jointly by the defendants. A trust fund was ordered established using any seized digital assets and future earnings from court-approved educational or employment programs the defendants might join during incarceration or supervised release. On February 7, 2023, U.S. District Judge Eileen McKinn issued sentences. Kyle M., 6 years in federal custody, with 18 months in juvenile facility, remainder in adult corrections after age 18, followed by 5 years of supervised release. Full restitution responsibility, mandatory participation in financial ethics rehabilitation. Jason L., 5.5 years, same custodial conditions, 5 years supervised release, full restitution responsibility, 200 hours of community service post-release to be completed with elder fraud prevention nonprofits. Noah R., 3 years in federal custody, initial 12 months in juvenile facility, 4 years supervised release, partial restitution liability capped at $120,000, psychological monitoring order due to positive rehabilitation indicators. In a final statement before sentencing, Kyle M. said, "I didn't think about the people on the other end. It was a game to us." Judge McKinn responded, "The harm you caused was real. You called it a game. These people called it survival." Taylor S. and Miguel D., under state supervision, were relocated to regional rehabilitation centers. Progress reports filed by juvenile authorities in March 2023 indicated compliance and positive behavioral adaptation, though Taylor was flagged for internet use violations and temporarily had device privileges revoked. Media coverage intensified post-sentencing, particularly around the symbolism of young offenders using advanced digital tools to exploit traditional vulnerabilities. Editorials questioned whether schools were adequately addressing cybersecurity literacy and moral education. In parallel, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office launched an awareness campaign, Verify the Voice, teaching seniors to recognize fraud indicators and verify caller identity through safe callback practices. Banks began offering opt-in alerts for elderly clients, flagging irregular card verification requests. The case entered the academic and policy discussion as a model for how low-tech manipulation could achieve high-tech theft in the hands of digital native minors. The FBI's 2023 Cybercrime Trends Report listed Operation Gold Code as the first documented coordinated juvenile-led financial fraud ring of its scope. In the months following sentencing, all 5 perpetrators began court-ordered rehabilitation programs. Kyle M. and Jason L. were transferred to medium-security youth correctional facilities, where they enrolled in vocational training and restorative justice workshops. Reports filed by facility staff indicated behavioral compliance but noted limited emotional engagement in victim empathy sessions for Kyle. Jason showed signs of leadership among peers but was monitored closely for manipulative behavior. Noah R., held in a lower-risk unit due to his shorter sentence and cooperation, began contributing to a digital fraud awareness curriculum under court supervision. His structured reflection exercises were later adapted into state-led anti-fraud seminars targeted at high school students. As of May 2025, he remains in custody but has earned early release review status for 2026. Taylor S. and Miguel D. completed their juvenile rehabilitation terms in late 2024. Post-release supervision continues through Lehigh County Youth Services. Taylor is enrolled in a community college program in information security. Miguel has not pursued further education but remains compliant with probation terms and participates in peer-led community outreach. Victim restitution remains ongoing. As of March 2025, approximately $128,000 has been recovered through asset liquidation and partial trust fund disbursements. The majority of victims have received symbolic reparations, with full financial restitution projected to take over a decade, if completed. The case spurred multiple legislative reviews in Pennsylvania and neighboring states. In July 2023, the Elder Financial Protection and Digital Fraud Act passed unanimously in the state legislature, mandating that financial institutions adopt enhanced identity verification protocols for clients over age 70. It also established grant funding for fraud prevention education in public schools. Educationally, Lockridge High School revised its ethics and digital literacy curriculum, incorporating material from the case under faculty guidance. A moment of controversy followed when the district briefly considered anonymizing the event in school materials. Public feedback ultimately demanded transparency. Operation Gold Code has since been cited in cybersecurity conferences and law enforcement seminars as a defining case of underage perpetrated, internet-facilitated financial fraud. While the individuals involved will remain monitored for years to come, the operation's legacy rests in its dual significance, both a cautionary tale of youth misapplied intelligence and a blueprint for better interagency response to low-tech high-yield scams. The case is classified as closed, monitored, with periodic reviews scheduled through 2030.